Today, we are going to learn more about Chattanooga's Bessie Smith Cultural Center. We are joined by Elijah Cameron, the Director of Community Relations. Hello, Elijah.
Good morning, Scott. How are you?
I'm doing well, sir. And if you don't mind, from our conversation before, I just don't feel comfortable calling you Elijah. I'm going to call you Mr. Cameron. Mr. Cameron, would you please tell us the history of the Bessie Smith Cultural Center?
I could do that. Actually, the Bessie Smith Cultural Center came about in two ways. One, it was originally the Chattanooga African American Museum, which was founded back in 1983. Well, they say 83, but I know that it was conceived earlier on, somewhere in the 70s, late 70s, by 10 visionaries. These guys were looking at actually being able to capture, present, and capture, preserve, and then present the African American history of those who had made a significant impact on the growth of Chattanooga. As you know, back in the 60s and things of that nature, our history was not a part of the American history books. So we had to ensure that our history was told, and those visionaries here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, understood that, and they wanted to do something that would help us to realize that there were those African Americans in our community who helped the growth of Chattanooga. So that's how the Chattanooga African American History Museum came about. Somewhere around 2009, the museum was changed to the Bessie Smith Cultural Center in order to pay homage to Mrs. Bessie Smith, Miss Bessie Smith, who grew up in Chattanooga, Tennessee, who was born in Chattanooga, down in Blue Goose Hollow. That's on the west side of ML Boulevard, down on the riverfront now, where all those new condos and things are going up. So, in changing the name to the Bessie Smith Cultural Center, Chattanooga African American Museum, we were able to pay homage to her, being one of the greatest blues singers in the world. As you know, she was recognized as the Empress of the Blues. So we were paying homage to her, recognizing that as a little girl, she sung up and down 9th Street, which is now ML King Boulevard, up and down 9th Street for nickels and dimes to help take care of her family. Her parents, I think by the time she was 9, both of her parents were deceased. So, and the children had to do what they had to do in order to survive.
Wow. You know, we were talking earlier with our producer who's in London, England, and his mother, who is in her 70s, found out that you were coming on and said, "Oh, Bessie Smith, I love Bessie Smith." That woman had a reach. She was known worldwide, and she's still remembered worldwide, and she grew up on our streets.
She did, and you're right. She's still known worldwide. We have a lot of people come in from England and Germany and places of that nature. They come because they want to know about Bessie Smith. They've read about Bessie Smith. They've heard about Bessie Smith. So they come looking for artifacts on Bessie Smith and listen to some of her music in the museum. We have a video in the museum that the films that displayed Bessie Smith in one of her roles. So we're actually excited about being able to present some of the dialogue on Bessie Smith, and also to be able to talk about Bessie to our children now who don't know anything about Bessie. Unfortunately, Bessie was not one of those things that were taught. It was not one of those blues singers that were taught in school because of and I'm not sure what it was about, but still there were a lot of things not taught about African American history in our schools.
Yeah, and so you have taken now, you told us about the Cultural Center and the history. You are now using that history to present to our children today. Tell us, what is the mission now with the Cultural Center?
Under the leadership of our president, Ms. Paula Wilkes, and the leadership of our board chair, Mr. Yusuf Hakim, we've identified lacks in the museum. We have to be able to come into the divide to the digital divide area. So what we're doing now is actually filming people reading books on African American history, the Voting Rights Act, some other book that talks about African Americans and their deeds in the city or in the country, to be able to show our children that even though they're at home during this time, to show them that it's important that you know your history and understand where you come from. We're trying to ensure that we get this message out, and we're doing it via the internet and Facebook, social media, and things of that nature. It's very important that we continue to talk about these things while our kids are quarantined in the house, so to speak, and not able to get out and go to school at this particular point in time. Well, of course, they're back in school now. They're supposed to be. So we're working very hard. We're working very hard to continue to bring this message. The museum is now moving into the digital age. We know that there are going to be some changes once we come out of this pandemic. There are going to be changes. So we are preparing ourselves to be able to reach or whoever we may need to reach via the internet, social media, however we need to do it. We think
And
it's
you have
very
Bessie Smith. You have Bessie Smith's front porch now, of course, because it's
yes.
closed during COVID. And I want to talk to you about two things with that. Number one, first of all, you have had some heavy hitters on there. I mean, you have had business leaders, top professionals in corporations and companies, and the majority of them are people of color. Now, Mr. Cameron, you've told me you're sending a message. Share with us, what is that message in bringing in these people?
Well, we wanted to make sure that people saw people of color, our kids saw people of color doing these things, and understand that you can do this also. You can learn. You can become a professional. You have the opportunity to do whatever it is that you want to do in life and be successful. All it does is take a little hard work, and that's with anything you do. Any accomplishment that we make involves hard work. So we bring in these professionals, we bring in these top people to talk about these things and to read to our students to help them understand that we're still human. We still put on our pants and our dress the same way, but we understand that there's a profession out there that's for you, but you have to work hard for it.
Yeah,
So we
great
want to
modeling.
inspire. We want to inspire them and help them to understand that you can do whatever it is that you want to do in life. All you have to do is work for it.
Now, there also are some very poignant and deeply painful messages that you have shared. Can you talk with us about a couple? First of all, I'd really like to talk a little bit about the two brothers who witnessed the firebombing of their home. You were telling me one was coming home from Vietnam. You tell the story better. I don't want to ruin it, Mr. Cameron. Please share that with us.
Well, yes, certainly. We brought the Edwards brothers, John Edwards and uh, his brother Velitas Edwards, in to discuss the impact that the civil rights movement had on their family. Of course, their father, Reverend J. Lloyd Edwards, was a civil rights leader here in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and he was someone that was forceful about the things that he was doing, even though it was a peaceful movement. Their house was bombed. So we brought them in to talk about the impact. Velitas being the younger brother, John being the oldest brother. John at the time was coming back from Vietnam when their house was being bombed. He's in Vietnam fighting for this country and some other people's humanitarian rights. And his house is being bombed because his father was trying to get equal rights for all the people. So that was a heck of an impact on their lives. That John told me he was angry for a long time. The leaders, being one of the younger brothers, understood that there was things happening to them that had never happened before. So they came in to discuss the way they felt and how they became involved in different things as they grew older and the civil rights leaders that they met along the way. And one being John Lewis and the other one being C.T. Vivian, who recently passed. Both of those men passed during the same week. So it was very important to get that message out for people to hear about that, especially in this environment that we're living in at the present time. To make them
No doubt.
understand. Yes, it was very important.
What can we do? What can our listeners do to help get this message out? Mr. Cameron, I grew up in North Georgia. Um, there were, I remember a young man coming to my house, young white kid, and it was clear that he hadn't bathed in some time, and he was hanging out in our bathroom for a long time, and my mom said, leave him alone. And he didn't have hot water at his house. So I mean, poverty really does exist everywhere. People who don't think they have an opportunity, they don't know of the opportunities, and they've never seen it modeled, exist everywhere. I think what the Cultural Center is doing is critical at this time and at all times. What can we do? What can our viewers and listeners do to help get your message and spread your message?
Well, certainly, I think that if they would share the information that we present on our YouTube, on our Facebook page, or come to the center when we are open again, hopefully it will be soon, come to the center and see what we have to offer. In the future, make donations to the center to help us continue to do those things that we're doing. Certainly, we feel that the Bessie Smith Cultural Center has a real message to get out to the community. I think we are significant as a history museum. We need to be able to tell a story. I don't think anything would change in America until America start telling the truth about history, and that's very important. So, if our listening audience would help us share this information, then certainly I think we would start to make some strides in our community toward being equal. It's
You
very
know,
important that we talk about these things.
well, you sure?
Yes,
I
sir.
mean, that story that you talked about with the Edwards brothers. I mean, that made that I spent a lot of time in the military. That made the I got goosebumps when you told that story. We don't know that history. It is ignorance is not necessarily a bad word, but it is ignorance, and that story has to be shared so that people uh, of all races understand why there's this chasm, and then that'll help us breach the chasm. Mr. Cameron,
Exactly.
you have been a delightful and very informative guest today. I thank you very much for your time, sir. Let's go on the website. Let's see what, or the Facebook page right now for the Bessie Smith Cultural Center. Let's help everyone out and get this message out. And Mr. Cameron, thank you so much again.
Scott, thank you so much. And thank you again for even thinking about the Bessie Smith Cultural Center in this way. Certainly, we appreciate the time and effort that you are putting in to make Chattanooga a better city. Thank you so much.
That's very kind of you, sir. Thank you. Please like and share this video. Like our page, subscribe to our channel, and we're also available as a podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Listen to Nooga Connection while you're running, driving, or just relaxing. Are you on Twitter? Follow us at Nooga Connection. Nooga Connection is sponsored by my law firm, the Davis Firm. I spent 15 of my 26 years working for insurance companies on the dark side. Put that experience to work for you. Protect yourself, protect your family. Look me up on www.noogalaw.com or call 423-756-3591.